let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin, right? But let's keep things positive. I just came from the worst 24-hour airline journey of my life. But it's funny because it made me think more about Bitcoin, right? And how Bitcoin can hopefully fix some of the things that are broken, from just the treatment you get by companies to the values in society. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on some of that, because we've had some interesting conversations just, offline and off camera about how things have really changed. Society is getting to a place where so many people feel left behind, and they vent those frustrations in different ways. Social media obviously provides the perfect platform, right? Yeah. But it's also, there's like a real breakdown where, I don't know, to me, it sometimes feels like people are crying out for help, and most of them don't know they're crying out for Bitcoin. How do you see it?
Yeah, no, I think your point on the incentives kind of breaking down, it seems like it's accelerating. And I think with a lot of the inflation we've seen over the last year and a half, that's making it harder for businesses. Like you were talking about the airline. I saw your reply to American Airlines this morning, which was hilarious. But what I think the reason you got such a reaction from everybody with your amazing response was because everybody can see it, everybody can sense it. And when they're seeing these companies that do they have to compete when all their competitors are doing the exact same thing and not actually providing customer service? They're just like, hey, sorry for your luck. We care, but sorry for your luck was kind of their response. There's, they're in a tricky situation with the situation with inflation is really what it comes down to. Now, your response was that they're buying back stock, but they're not actually investing in the customers or really caring about that. But when you have so much consolidation of enterprise, and there's only a couple type of companies out there that are really kind of servicing, and we could talk about any type of industry, but that's a theme that you see at the end of these large credit cycles, is the consolidation of enterprise. And they know there's nowhere else to go, and they're trying to pack in as much margin as they can in an inflationary environment. And so that's where the incentives start breaking down.
Right. There's no competition. And I think competition maybe provides a different incentive structure, right? You have to treat the customer better. You have to win them. So do you believe, in that saying, Bitcoin fixes this? Do you think it will adjust all of that?
I think it will, but I think it's not going to be on the timeline that many of us want it to be on. And I think it's going to be, it's hard to really kind of understand the timeline, because in one side I could make the argument that maybe things happen a little faster because of how broke credit markets are, and this thing that's offering a solution. It really comes down to how fast people can be educated and kind of grok the essence of the transition that's underway. On the other side, the longer timeline, if they're able to keep credit markets at bay and kind of keep inflation somewhat under 10% or lower, like maybe the transition can happen a little bit slower than what some of us can think. But I think it comes down to more that economic backdrop, that macro backdrop with respect to bond markets in particular, and their ability to control inflation. That's actually going to be the thing that speaks to the speed of Bitcoin adoption, much more so than people understanding Bitcoin.
I've been having really interesting conversations lately with people about our value system changing. Everyone from Natalie Smolensky and Jeff Booth. And you have some really compelling insights on the changing morality and why that is. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit of that, because I think that the media likes to politicize this a lot, but there is this shift where in plain data, there's an increase in overdoses. There's an increase in mental health issues. There's just an increase of things where you think, what's happened? Why are families breaking down? Why are moral systems breaking down? Why is crime on the rise? And it's not really political if you really dig deeper. And so I was wondering if you could share some of what you think.
In general, I would say, I would use this example. If you were going to play a video game and you played the game in the first level and you got halfway through the level, you try it the second time, and you still got halfway through, and you played a third time, and this time you got 40% through. You played it again, and now you're 30% through. You're gonna quickly just look at that game and say, okay, so the more I play, the worse I get, and there's no point in trying. and I'm going to just do whatever. And if the requirement is that you got to get to the end of level 1, you're going to do whatever it takes to ultimately figure out how to get to the end of level 1, whether that means you're doing it morally and ethically, or you're going to cheat because you think that the game's rigged.
You're incentivized to cheat.
You're incentivized to cheat at that point. And so what we have is a lack of control. The person who's playing the game is saying, I'm not on the controls, somebody else is on the controls, and they're making it more miserable and difficult for me to play this game. When we look around the world and you look at how, I like to use the inflation rate almost like a current that you've got to outpace. So like if you have 2% inflation, you can still kind of swim beyond that. If you're dealing with 5% inflation, it's getting way harder to just stay neutral. And if 10% or plus, like the current's just taking you. And so when people are trying to navigate this type of environment and they don't have much disposable income, the current's just taking them. They're playing the game and they're saying, I can't even get halfway through the level. And so what that's doing is it's warping their perception of everything's rigged. And therefore, I feel like I can just go out and do whatever because I'm playing in a rigged system. And so you see morals shift. You see people justify the way that they view the world and what is right and wrong when they feel like they're up against something that's impossible to control.